Brought to you by Penguin.
Make Change That Lasts. Written and read by me, Dr Rangan Chatterjee. To all who seek meaningful change that lasts. Introduction. As soon as I answered the call, I could tell my old friend Helen was in a bad way. Helen had been a GP for 16 years and was one of the most resilient, positive people I knew. Despite the grueling demands made on her in her inner city practice, I'd never once heard her complain. She was a brilliant doctor who cared deeply about people. I felt lucky to know her, but on the phone that morning, I was surprised to hear her voice break as she asked if she could discuss something with me, face to face. Something was definitely wrong. When we met for coffee that weekend, Helen explained that she'd had a run-in with a patient that had left her deeply upset. This patient was pre-diabetic, and she was talking to him about modifying his diet. There weren't many GPs who were more knowledgeable than Helen about the damage that too many ultra-processed and sugary foods can do to the body. She was a true expert in the field, always up to date with the latest peer-reviewed studies, many of which she would email me, alongside her own informed and fascinating commentary. She was carefully explaining to this patient how excess sugar can increase his levels of inflammation when he said to her, "Why should I listen to you? You're fatter than I am." I was shocked to hear this and felt terrible for Helen. But as Helen herself pointed out to me, her patient was right. God, it was so humiliating, she told me. I just didn't know what to say. She shook her head and laughed sadly. I'm lecturing him about the harmful effects of sugar. She shook her head and laughed sadly. I'm lecturing him about the harmful effects of sugar when I've got a bag of Cadbury's giant buttons sitting right there in my desk drawer. Helen had been trying to control her chocolate habit for years. In fact, the reason she had become so well versed in the science of unhealthy eating was because she'd been trying to educate herself into having a better diet. She said, "It clearly hasn't worked. I know everything there is to know pretty much. I know that sugar is harming my health, and now apparently it's harming my ability to help my patients, but I still can't stop. There's always some excuse I manage to come up with to treat myself. I don't know what to do." I immediately thought of some of my own patients who seemed to already know everything I could tell them about health. And yet, despite being desperate for change, I also thought about the listeners of my podcast, Feel Better, Live More, and the readers of my books. So many times I'd spoken to people who were enthusiastic and committed to learning about health and made absolutely sure they were up to date on the latest ideas and findings, but still struggled massively to achieve the change they were so desperate for. They might be eating too much sugar, like Helen, or ultra-processed foods, or drinking too much caffeine or alcohol. They might be struggling to manage their stress, or sleeping poorly. They might be failing to move their body enough. I could think of so many people who knew perfectly well what they should be doing and why they should be doing it, but were still unable to make the final brave leap to successful change. They had all found what Helen had also discovered, that sometimes knowledge is not enough. How could I help these people? What was going on with them? What exactly was the short circuit that needed fixing? Insight versus outsight.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?